the more and more I would come to Ghana for those immersion trips for my organization, the harder it was for me to go back to the States. I had a conversation with my wife and I said, you know what? I think the next place in our journey is Ghana. For the first couple months, I mean, I would wake up and I would just be like, wow, we're in Africa. Like we're actually living here. And it was really exhilarating and exciting. And for the first time in my life, I felt like a human being disconnected from the color of my skin, and it was transformational. So the difference between visiting Ghana for a holiday or vacation and living here is...
In today's video, we take a look at this Black American man who has relocated to Ghana. He shares his experiences with us in this video, how he arrived in Ghana and why he even came to Ghana. Now, about 15 or 16 years ago, he made his first visit to the country of Ghana. Whilst he kept visiting Ghana, he says that the more he visited Ghana, the harder it was for him to return back to the United States of America. Because here in Ghana, that is when he felt the true meaning of being free, the true meaning of freedom. Because in the United States of America, he didn't feel that free. He was confined to the color of his skin. But over here in Ghana, everyone looks exactly like him, and he is even being treated better when he goes to places. So he shares his experiences with us in this video. Let's listen to him and as he shares his experiences.
So my name is Tim Swain. I've been coming back and forth to Ghana for about 15 years, living here more permanently for about 3. I helped co-found an organization called DIASPORA 360 that creates global leaders through cultural immersion right here in Ghana. And I also help consult folks who want to come back to the country and live the life of their dreams. I got introduced to Ghana almost 16, 17 years ago through an organization that did mission trips, actually, and they said we're going to Africa next year. That's the only thing I heard. I didn't know where Ghana was, and it just so happened they were coming to Ghana for 7 weeks during a mission trip over the summer, and I said I have to go. It was a part of like my lifelong dream to, go back home to the motherland and reconnect with my roots, and so I did. And in that 7 weeks, that was 2007, and in that 7 weeks that I was here, my life was transformed. My ideas about myself, about African history, about my standards of beauty, about our historical memory and intellect, all of that was transformed. And for the first time in my life, I felt like a human being disconnected from the color of my skin, and it was transformational. And so since then, Ghana has had a place in my heart. Yeah, so it took some time, for me. I was visiting for maybe about 10 years at this point. I had a nonprofit organization that was operating here, mobilizing people to the continent, as well as doing civic engagement work in rural communities in Ghana. So I already had kind of like some in-depth experience. But really what happened was there was just this increasing racial tension in the United States that had me thinking about myself and then my son, of what kind of life I wanted to have for him and legacy I wanted to have for him. And I just didn't want to raise him in a society where he's being constantly bombarded with the ugliness of racism every single day. And the more and more I would come to Ghana for those immersion trips for my organization, the harder it was for me to go back to the States, because I was experiencing what freedom felt like, just to be free. And then going back to a place where I'm now confined to the color of my skin, regardless of whether or not there's opportunities to prevail and succeed, it was still that constant subconscious understanding that I'm different. And around 2000 and, was it 16 or 17? I don't remember, but I had a conversation with my wife and I said, you know what? I think the next place in our journey is Ghana. So we started planning. It took several years of planning. It wasn't just a fly-by-night decision. If you're listening, okay? This was years of planning. And then we made that decision. December 4th, 2019, we arrived in Ghana. It was a dream come true because, for folks out there watching, if you set a goal and you're working towards that goal for so long, for like years and years and years, you keep seeing this reality in your mind so that when it actually manifests itself, it's like, it's almost surreal. It's like, is this really happening? So for the first couple months, I mean, I would wake up and I would just be like, wow, we're in Africa. Like we're actually living here. And it was really exhilarating and exciting. And I'll say that I think we came at the right time, because shortly afterwards, the world, unfortunately was rocked by this global pandemic of coronavirus. And to be in Ghana during the earlier stages of the pandemic was far better than being in the United States. And so I was grateful that we were here. Even though it was challenging, it was definitely better to be here during that time in the States. I think like everyone else during Corona, nobody knew anything. And so everybody was hyper vigilant. Everyone was on edge. Just the normal things that you would do when you move to a new place, like go to social events, network, meet people, find out, hey, you couldn't really do that. And so we were kind of insulated within ourselves and our own family. Our son was out of school, and it was stressful. It was very stressful. It was extremely stressful, just trying to navigate along with the rest of the world. Where do we go from here? If and you remember how it was initially. If you sneeze or you cough, people looked at you as if like, like you had, some kind of, just crazy illness. So just navigating those pieces was a little difficult. Yeah. So I think it happened in phases. I think the first phase was like the honeymoon phase, where everything was okay. So you would see things, but it would be minimalized because you were such in this surreal moment of like, I'm living in Africa. Some of the things you will see, just like the rubbish problem or sanitation or trash problem, people chopping your money. You think, just 1 CD, 2 CDs, that's not a big deal. But for me, I overlooked them. Then the second part of the phase was kind of like, it's like the sober reality of like, you start noticing classism, noticing that, okay, I, as a foreigner coming from the US, as an Obruni, I get special treatment. And that's not right. Why am I being put at the front of the line when this person's been waiting for 10 minutes and they heard my accent and they put me at the front of the line? And so seeing those kinds of things, seeing the systemic issues, such as the disparities between certain areas in Ghana, certain regions, oh my God, listen, we can go on and on. And then I think it was just sobering up to the reality that I'm in a great space, but I'm also privileged to be here. And my experience in Ghana is not the typical experience of the everyday Ghanaian or just person living here. And reconciling what's my responsibility to help make an impact where I am, but at the same time not drive myself crazy with trying to solve every single problem. And that was a real challenge for me. Yeah. So the difference between visiting Ghana for a holiday or vacation and living here is, the main thing I always ask people is this. Like I say, imagine if you're visiting a place like the East Coast, right, or the West Coast in the United States, New York or California, and you're going to, I think it's Disney World or Disneyland that's out there. You may saved up $10,000 or $5,000 for a vacation. You're spending $5,000 in a week. Imagine if you were spending $20,000 a month to live. How much income would that have to be just to sustain a lifestyle? It's too much.
I believe you have picked some inspiration from this video. If you are a Black American or a person of African descent living in the diaspora, I recommend Ghana as a country for you to live in. This country is very, very peaceful. This is where you experience the true meaning of freedom. As I always say, you should not live in a place where you are being discriminated against by your race. You should live in a place where you feel confident in the color of your skin and you are not being discriminated against. I recommend Ghana for you. So kindly subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet subscribed. Like this video so that YouTube will recommend it to other people on the platform. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.